the hijab if they were Muslim. However, the lecturer told us that in many cases, women actually have a choice whether they want to or not. Hearing this was important to me because it represents just one of the many misconceptions I must have about Muslims being so ill-informed. This shows how important it is to be informed about a culture and really analyze one's own culture in order to draw similarities and avoid misconceptions. And finally, a bit longer reflection, but I think it so beautifully articulates the kinds of experiences that this field trip enables students to have. It's both surprising and not surprising that when entering the mosque, that as a group of students, we are first assured that Muslims do have a place in this small corner of Maine, and in a greater sense, the United States and even the Western world. It's surprising because on such a dreary March day, the mosque was warm and bright inside, as were the Muslim people presenting to us. It's surprising because the space is there itself, existing, persisting, defiant under often false assumption that these areas lack any diversity. It's not surprising that they must assure us students of their place, because in many ways, growing up as a young, non-Muslim white person in post-9/11 America, I have been taught to hate Muslims. I have been taught to, at the very least, disrespect Islam and Muslim practice. And yet, I personally have always been critical of such rhetoric and such distance. I'm not at all trying to absolve myself of some prejudice. When our student group was asked at the mosque as to what we think when we see a woman wearing a hijab, I didn't vocalize it, but my first thought is to wonder if the woman is a recent immigrant. My first reaction is to assume some newness about the person, not that they are an established part of the community. I wonder if my peers grew up with some Muslim peers and friends and secretly had these questions all along, or simply assumed something horrible. I can't even imagine asking something like, what makes you different than ISIS? And that was a question that a student asked when we were visiting the Islamic Center on Tuesday and felt they could ask. That's really important. They felt they could ask that question, that the space was safe enough and we had prepared everyone to be able to have that difficult conversation. So I'll start again. I can't even imagine asking something like, what makes you different than ISIS to the Muslim people in my community? Exposure is important, as are the questions, even if they feel awful, because the answers are the only way we can become more united as a community. I was grateful for the experience because I have always been curious as to what a mosque was like, or how practicing Muslims feel about their place in Maine. I hope that my peers, as I did, got the vital exposure needed to question not only Islam and our perceptions of it, but also the root of our questions and perceptions. So thank you very much.